Hey crew, welcome back. I hope you're doing great and that you're ready to jump into this video. I am so excited because I've been waiting to start this series for such a long time. The whole YouTube idea originated from that. So as you probably saw on the title of the video, we'll be playing some Wild Rift today and probably for as long as we can hold. Today's video will be focusing on me trying to give you the most brutally honest tips that I can to help you reach your full potential in the game. For the future, we'll try to cover as much of the mechanics of the game, as much of the game as a whole, because I've actually spent quite a bit of time on that specific game, which we'll get into in just a second. But for today, we will talk about what the ADC role means, what the role is as itself, what mentality to have, and also how they can help their team to actually reach victory. But firstly, you might be asking who I am to qualify to give you those pointers. So I thought I'd make a quick recap of my experience on the game. I am currently the #1 Misfortune in Europe with a current high score of 58 marks on the Grandmaster ladder, which I've reached twice in the last 2 seasons. I have joined Wild Rift the day of its release, and I'd say I've played roughly every day or every other day. In total, I have about 3,600 games, which if you convert it into time would be roughly 1,100 hours of gameplay. With the high majority of it as the ADC role, even though I do have some experience on roughly every role. Alright, I think it's time to get into the video. So let's start with our first question of the day. So what is an ADC? ADC stands for Attack Damage Carry. This already holds a lot of meaning. Attack damage carry means that the ADC's primary focus is on dealing damage to the enemy team, rather than defending themselves or their allies. Its role is to focus on generating as much money, not kills necessarily, as they can, and of course as fast as possible. They are the main source of damage for their team and are responsible for taking down enemy champions, turrets, and objectives. Now, I could give you the usual speech about the fact that to be a successful ADC, you need to have a high emphasis on damage, attack speed, critical chance, and movement speed. But I believe that with the overall progress of players on Wild Rift, you'll need to be a little more crafty. After playing so many hours on the role, I believe that the main attribute to win your lane is to actually seize control of what I call the atmosphere. This means that you need to learn how to get into your opponent's head before he gets into yours. We will get more into that in future videos, so please don't forget to subscribe if you don't want to miss anything in the future. It really helps. The close second primary requirement for a successful ADC is focus. Considering that you will probably be the player with the least HP or defenses in your team, you need to have the best possible focus. Whether to choose the right person to attack or at what moment to engage, or simply to choose the correct moment to call for reinforcements to engage that infernal Drake, the AD carry should have enough focus and understanding of the high level of the game to take the correct decisions to influence the game from start to finish. It's important to note that the ADC should prioritize offense over defense. This means that you should avoid getting caught out by the enemy team and position yourself carefully in teamfights to avoid taking unnecessary damage. Finally, the ADC is also a turret and objective destroyer. This means that you should focus on taking down turrets and objectives whenever possible, as this will help your team gain an advantage in the game. Overall, the ADC role is very complex as you have very low defenses and need to dedicate 100% of your focus per game if you intend to be successful. On top of that, be ready to deal with that extra bit of salt because people tend to see the ADC role as the pivot of the team. If you are ahead, you will often be praised, but if you fall a little bit behind, people can be very unforgiving. My advice in this case, mute them. Don't let them disturb your focus and try to catch up on what you've missed. Alright, so let's move on to the second question of the day. So what does a game look like for an ADC? So the game for an ADC will be mostly divided into two phases. The first one will be the laning phase, and the second one is what I called the grouping phase. The laning phase, don't listen to anything you see online. All you gotta remember is that as long as you hit all your minions, the rest isn't that important. The ADC role is mostly about making money. You will only be facing two people at that point. Even if you get stomped on, it will actually not define the game at all. The only difference it will make is if the rest of the game will be easy or harder. It doesn't mean you will win or it doesn't mean you will lose. All that matters here is to put your full focus on getting the last hit for your minions, making as much money as possible. If you count it, killing a player will bring you 350 gold. A full minion wave in average will give you 280 gold. The difference here is that the minions are mostly safe. Attacking the player always comes with a risk, and if you do lose or die, you risk giving them the advantage. Now for the grouping phase. This is the game-defining phase. You will usually feel it right away as players tend to group up for a first team fight in the mid lane. Be careful as the ADC often becomes the main attack target from this point on, and you will be more prompt to face jungle dives or mid players diving to assassinate you. Yes, I'm talking to you, Zed. Remember that you represent the damage in your team. Don't hesitate to make calls out to orientate the game and choose where your damage will be most influencing. Don't forget that you can also highly influence the mental state of the enemy team. Nothing is more scary than a fed ADC. Use that to your advantage. If the enemy is scared of you, he will put more attention on personal defense than the rest. This will open opportunities to engage towers or objectives in a stronger position of power than your enemy. Focus becomes very important in the grouping phase. Always stay aware of the 5 enemy champions on the map and where they are putting their focus. If you know a turret will fall versus the enemy attack, it might be wiser to engage another tower on another lane or an isolated enemy that could tip the next teamfight in your favor. Now let's talk a bit more about objectives. I will make a future video on this as well, so I will stay high level. But remember that objectives, Drakes, Rift Heralds or Baron, are not the responsibility of the jungler, opposed to what most people think. They are highly dangerous and risky engage at all stages of the game and therefore require a special effort from every single member of the team. As the ADC, you will often have a much clearer window to engage any objective than the jungler, except maybe for the Rift Herald, which relies a little more on the top laner. This means that if you want to be successful as an ADC, you will have to learn to be an excellent communicator and often leader as well. Let's now dive into our final question of the day. What is the Dragon Lane? The Dragon Lane. This is where most of the magic happens. Depending on what is happening in your lane, you can expect the rest of the game to be either easier or much harder. In this lane, you can expect roles to be very gold reliant, especially in your case, the ADC. The support on his side will be dependent on your efficiency to make gold, so don't think that he doesn't care about gold. He actually does just as much as you, but really depends on you and your gameplay to increase his income. Therefore, please, again, never forget, the core of your role here on the Dragon Lane is to learn how to last hit minions. Between the two ADCs, the one with the most killed minions will probably be the one who has a bigger chance to carry his team for the rest of the game. You should also consider that you have to be present on most teamfights and objectives. Therefore, being on one side of the map, you need to remain aware of every lane and what is happening. That will give your support the flexibility to move from one lane to the other and support the other part of your teams while you fight on the laning phase. The Dragon Lane is usually considered very complicated because not only are you playing with somebody else, but it is also attracting more people. Obviously, if the jungler manages a gank, there is a high chance that he can get away with 2 kills. or split kills with the other AD carry. Therefore, again, always remain aware of what is happening between your lanes. Make sure bushes are always covered with wards, whether it is north or south bush. It is also important to listen to the pings coming in from your team. They are usually not here to annoy you. I do say usually because things can be a little more complicated sometimes, but most of the time they will be there to indicate that something is happening. Stay aware. Apart from that, you can expect the dragon lane to last roughly 8 or 9 minutes and will usually come to end with the death of the first dragon, or if you or the enemy carry manages to destroy the tower. Well, I'd say that's all you need to know for a first lesson here. I hope you enjoyed this new format. It was an absolute pleasure for me to make it. Let me know in the comment section if you do want more similar content or if you'd have any other specific ideas that you would want to see happen on this channel. In any case, I wish you the best day possible. See you for the next one. Bye!